Good morning. Hi, Jen. Hi, Coach Constance.
Good morning.
Hi, Sheila. Glad you all are here. I just started the recording. And welcome to Let's Talk About Living Your Values. And today our topic is building resilience. I'm Amy Johnson, and I am here with my friend and mindset coach, Sheila Arthur. And we created this space to have an open conversation, to talk about what it means to really live our values, make them vibrant and dynamic, and not something that's just on a wall or, in a book somewhere or a journal. It's something that we can really live with and use them as a tool. This is a place to talk about challenges of doing that, successes doing that, celebrations, and just how to live our values every day. Each time we get on here, it's really great to remember how we define core values when we talk about the work and what does that mean. So the definition that I came up with for core values, it's a single word or phrase that connects us to our authentic and most truest self. I'm really seeing it as a bridge between kind of my inner knowing, my purpose, my soul, my calling, and the outside world, and how to help connect those so that that can be demonstrated out in the world. Another way to say it is an inner compass, the way to help us direct where we want to go, and then how to get there too. So we use our values every day, whether we realize it or not. We're making micro decisions, and it's a great opportunity to really be conscious and really see what does it look like when we're out and about in our day, when we're shopping, when we're eating, when we're communicating, just being out there. So, because most of the time it's habitual or we're reacting from a place of fear. Other times this work can really help bring that to be more conscious. And so it's really about bringing the unconscious conscious is this process. And the other piece that I really want to mention here is that when you hear values talked about, I'm hearing it more and more out there in the world, in the zeitgeist, and it tends to be very general. And what we like to do here is make it specific. And if it's not general, it's binary. Like this is a good value and that's a bad value. We don't talk about it in that frame of reference at all. There's no shoulds, there's no rigidity, there's no this is the way it's supposed to be. It's much more of a dynamic conversation. And it's not about being perfect. And it's more about, being more true to ourselves in all aspects of our life. So Sheila, do you have anything you want to add to that?
You're doing a beautiful job. I was just going to say that I have a throat lozenge in my mouth right now.
Okay. So
I'm just recovering from a common cold. If you can believe it, it's still out there. The common cold is out there. It's alive and well, and it got me last week, and I'm almost at the point where I'm back to normal. So I'm just going to talk through that. And what you're saying, Amy, of course, is totally on track in terms of what core values are, and why this work is so important to us is because I don't think there's anything that happens that doesn't take me back to my values in some way or another. It's like, this is like such a guidepost for navigating so many different things. And we've talked about and just decisions that you make and turning points in life. And today we're talking about resilience as a matter of course, and just how using your core values is such a wonderful way to build that resilience, as a tool for building resilience, tool for getting back on track when things seem to crash beneath our feet. So again, just really excited about the work and looking forward to this conversation today.
Yes, me too. Thank you, Sheila. So I wanted to talk just a few minutes about the resilience and why, and this topic. I think it's important to define what resilience is for me, and I'd love to hear from others how they define resilience. But for me, resilience is about accepting the flow of life and being able to respond to the ups and downs of life. It's not about reacting. It's about, understanding that things happen in life and how can we bounce back, and how in the moment can we address it and be our most truest self in the process of that. So it's kind of our capacity to know we'll be okay no matter what happens. And values are an amazing tool for that. And because it really is something to rely on no matter what. And so much of what I have seen is that if I just start using them more and more in my everyday life, they become a tool that I can access more quickly and more deliberately. And so I have other tools, and I'd be fun to talk about what other tools. Yoga is a huge tool for my resilience and my nervous system. Breathing exercises, exercise in general, like getting in my body is really key. So, but as I said before, my values really help me how to, that's about like kind of going internal, but as a tool for the external, a tool to handle what's going on. Values are often helpful to point that direction out for me. The values also kind of help me get really centered, because there's something I'm once I have that set of core values, I can really rely on that. It helps me feel grounded in another way that the other body practices can help too. And it's that interconnection that helps me find my way. So, and that can be personal. Like I had a lot of driving this week. My daughter started school again, and the commute is, I was telling Sheila earlier, I'm in the car 2.5, 3 hours now that I wasn't before school started, because both drop off and pick up is like 45 minutes each way with traffic. It's not far, it's 7 miles, but the traffic is really bad. And that's, it takes resilience to manage that and not to lose my mind. And, like seriously, and yes, I can listen to podcasts and make calls and all that, but just the notion of that much time in the car is pretty powerful, especially with like 18 months where that wasn't happening. And I go to my values. This is important to me for my daughter. My integrity is showing up for her. So I go to my values and do it in a way that really just helps me be there. And it's a really great school for her. I'm not going to pull her out. She's a junior in high school. So I can also ask for help. And that's another piece to make it sustainable for me, because it's not really sustainable doing this for the long haul. So asking for help is part of being sustainable in my life. So they're all there. And when I use them, I've been working my values every day at night, kind of as a journal prompt. And it's been really helpful to get grounded and centered in this personal change and transition. And then I can see it, more globally or nationally for today as a day of remembering what happened on 9/11 20 years ago and what that meant for so many people, and the losses that came even after that with the subsequent wars, and just the change in and how much it changed for all of us. And if we know people who personally lost a sense of innocence as well as people themselves. So lost lives. There's a lot of grief around this. I think most people remember where they were on 9/11, 2001, who are of age can remember. So I'm glad you're all here, and I really want to hear what brought you today and what your ideas or practices for resilience are too. If you want to pop in and say hi and check in. Jen or Constance, you feel up for saying hi?
Sure, I'll say hi. Hi, I'm Jen. I haven't been to a session in a couple of months with you guys, but it was on a Saturday and I wasn't working, so I was able to make it. Really excited. I'm learning a lot about resilience this month. I'm going through breakups that happened about a month ago. So I've been very proud of myself because I'm not just like a little shell or anything. I'm looking at all the positive. I'm reconnecting with old friends. I'd gone through breakups before where I was like devastated and wasn't sure what, like pity party Jen, and that is not happening this time. There are moments when I'm like, you feel emotions. That's, to be expected, but the resilience factor was 100%. Like, I'm very proud of how resilient I'm being through all of this. So I'm just like, not to like patting myself on the back a little bit, because I'm just like proud of how I'm dealing with it, to be honest. So, and this is like a great way to just kind of like reinforce some of those ideas and just kind of like hone in on that for me. So
That's beautiful and true. I mean, gosh, breakups are so powerful. The real opportunities to heal too, and the resilience that, because it can feel so overwhelming and encompassing. And
Mhm.
and again, it's the grief that comes up. Even if it was the right, obviously if you know the grief of the idea of what it could have been.
Mhm.
And so amazing
A
for
shake
you.
up too, like I'm just like getting out there and doing things, and I'm at a really great place in my career, and things are like really falling into line there. So it's like, this happened, but it's okay. I'm gonna be okay. There's like all these other opportunities. So it's like, it's fine.
Absolutely. And it's a turning point. And
Yes.
those are the moments of real self-reflection and opportunity to get clearer for ourselves. So kudos to you for that and embracing that part of it, the dialectic of it all, the grief and then the opportunity, that the opening that comes with it is being able to hold space for both of those. And yeah. Do you see any of your values kind of coming up in this time for you?
Well, I've been kind of working on like going back to my goals list, going back to the values list that I left in the other room that I don't have that I can look at right now. But yeah, it's just like, kind of going back to the stuff that I kind of put aside while we were dating because we were focused on each other and that kind of thing. And like I still was working on my goals, but not the same way I am now. I have more time and my career is at a place now where we're fully staffed again. And so I have like this extra time to really kind of focus on like just having some time off, focusing on myself, reconnecting with my friends and doing the things I wanted to do, So got a trip to Zion in the works. I mean, things are like the universe is making it very okay for me right now. So I'm as happy as I could be considering.
Mhm.
It's
I
a big,
want to I just want to acknowledge what you're saying about the loss and just the change, that it's change. And that seems to be the thing that, as I think about it, at this point in my life, I mean, you hear these kinds of things around change being a constant, but change and sudden shifts impact us so powerfully, because the ground beneath you is a little bit different. And even if it's good and you can find the good, it's still reconciling to that difference. And that seems to be the constant like challenge in my life. And I think in life itself is just confronting all of those changes and how you deal with them. And I notice that even though you may not articulate what the values are there, I know that there's some values that are operating from you because you just mentioned a lot of self-talk about, okay, I've been through a breakup before, and these things are going well in my life, and I know that I can do this, and this is an opportunity to reconnect with friends. And these are, so you're looking at um, making it broader, and seeing the whole picture rather than like that narrow focus. And this is the part around resilience too, is because when you've been through something before, then it's like, okay, this is, even though this feels crappy or it feels strange or it's not quite where I want to be, I know that I'm going to be able to weather this, and I know that I'm going to be able to use tools that are going to help me to get through this. And I know that there are going to be times when, like you said, you have to recognize and acknowledge the feelings. Feelings are there, of course they're there. And that part's fine. I mean, that part's essential, right? To healing. That part's essential to your own self-awareness about what's happening in your life. So all that stuff is really important. And I think, Jen, even if you're not articulating what your values are, I would invite you to think about what might be showing up for you as you make those choices, because you're making some very clear choices and intentions about how you want to go through this process that I think are very healthy for you, and will help you with your toolkit continuing to build, because it's like this is the stuff of life, right? It's
Mhm.
loss, it's change, it's relationship shifting, it's all these other things, and then just embracing all of that. So thank you. It was a very powerful share. Appreciate it.
that's amazing. I think so too. And expansion. I'm hearing expansion too. All that. And I imagine that the work when you did the values work before, if you went back to the workbook, it would be infused with a lot of new stuff. that could even enrich it. And that's why I like talking about them as dynamic, because it's that descriptive, we choose them, or I think more, it's not even a choice. It's kind of, they emerge from us at different points in our life. And then we, claim them or own them. And then we describe them, because in that description that they really become alive and identify and get really used. So I imagine there's a richness in there. So but you still have your workbook. It's cool. And if you want, and have, this, if you have questions specifically, this is a place to also ask about that too. And I, because I really find they're such a useful tool with career, with relationships, with day-to-day life, and, finding opportunities to play with them. I look at it as fun. It's kind of different, but I like words. I'm a Gemini. I like communication words, so, and bridges and things like that. So I see it that way, and that's really great. So, and it's good that there's the dynamic aspect of work too, that you can have, and personal stuff too. It sounds like with friends and things like that. So it gives us that, it's all about that they're really living
Full picture.
the full picture, right? Because the thing with resilience, or when things get difficult, I'm really good at crisis management. So like I can kind of zero in on it and focus. And there are times that's appropriate, but I can stay there too long. And so it's being able to kind of be able to pull back and see that whole full self. And for me, the values have helped with that, right? So if I'm in integrity and sustainability all the time, those are kind of my go-to ones, but flourish is important to me. So sometimes I just need to go stop and dance, the music on and dance. And that feels like I'm in flourish and life, and tend to the garden, like plant vegetables in the garden, which I did last weekend, those kinds of things, or go to Zion and be out in nature. That really helps me feel like I'm living more of a full life in that regard. Yeah. So, hi, Coach Constance. Do you want to say hi and check in?
Hi there. Pardon my lateness. It literally took 15 minutes to get on. I think because my computer, it looks like it's still signed in.
Yeah.
So I tried to get on at 11 a.m. Eastern time. so that I'm outside now, and I realized my computer. So that's probably why it wasn't like letting me on or something.
I thought you
But
were
I've been ready for 3 hours.
I thought you were just feeling introspective, and it's like I said, "Hi, Coach Constance," and it's like crickets, right?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh my God.
No,
So yeah,
it's resilience to stay on for 3 hours.
That's right. That's true. I didn't mean to interrupt the flow.
No, you're perfect. You're perfect. No, we were just talking about what brought you here today, and our topic is about resilience. Probably in light of the fact that today is the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and this seems to be. Amy and I always think about what's happening in our own lives as we reflect on what's up for us, kind of when we're deciding upon what might be an interesting topic to talk about. And certainly resilience came up because of what's happening, because this is 9/11, because of all of the shifts that continue to happen in each of our lives, both the collective ones and the individual ones, the big ones and the small ones, just change itself. Creates an opportunity for that. And we talked about what resilience is. And Amy shared that definition a few minutes ago, just about, how important it is to build in those muscles and that tools to be able to do that, because that's what life is really all about, right? It's you're confronted with certain things. So you either have an opportunity to respond, or you end up reacting, and the reacting part never ends up very well over the long haul, right? So it's like these values that we talk about constantly are such a way of being responsive to life and being responsive to changes and being responsive to things that are happening, and just building that capacity for resilience with all the things that everybody deals with. I was thinking about, I was watching a little bit of the 9/11 ceremonies and the remembrances this morning. And I remember that time, and of course everybody does. And I remember too, for the reason that just earlier that year, my eldest sister was killed in an automobile accident unexpectedly. And that was like the first like major, my father died the year before, but this one was such a shock. And it was such a shock to the system because it was so unexpected. And so there was still the reverberation of that happening in my landscape when 9/11 happened. And I remember how grateful I was that she wasn't alive to experience it. It just would have been so devastating for her. She was such a sensitive soul, in so many ways. And just how I could, in addition to always kind of connecting with people on an emotional level and feeling their pain, I had my own storehouse of pain and anguish and just struggle at that time, and then it just magnified that whole thing. So just getting through that year and getting through that and being able to have faith in life and faith in things working out, and being able to smile and laugh again was huge. And I remember that without even knowing what my values were at the time, without having named them, healing had always been a really important thing for me. So bringing forth healing before I could articulate that, I had many opportunities to do that in my life, in my own life, for myself, and then helping other people. So that became such an instrumental part of my own work, was just focusing on that. And Amy, you talked about how important it is, like you have your values, and once you've identified them, there's certain ones that are just go to. It's like, okay, this is it every day. This is it, nonstop, right? Presence, always super important. But then the other ones can kind of be there, but not be in the foreground. And sometimes it takes a consciousness to like elevate those values that are so important to the foreground, so that then they become additional tools to help with the process, because now something's shifted. And so it's like, now I need to really focus on healing because I'm in a world of hurt. And so, values are so powerful for that whole process of navigating through turmoil and changes and building resilience. They certainly have been for me. So I just wanted to share that. It's like, oh, gee, where did that come from? But
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
muted because my husband's doing yard work, and sometimes I realized, oh, it's probably loud. He stopped for a moment. But I appreciate that share, for sure. It's amazing where everybody was in the different places in people's lives, all the different places, and how it changed in different ways.
right, absolutely.
And then I could see that it's just 20 years, how much has changed. I think there was a lot of questions about safety and personal safety. And I was in LA and I didn't have a TV, and someone was like banging on my door, going, did you hear what happened? And it was way later, and my brother worked on Wall Street, and I was like freaking out. Like I couldn't get in touch with him, which was common back then. And then he told me he hadn't been working on Wall Street for a while. And then that made me question, like, what's going on that between us that he wouldn't want to tell me that? So I got to re-question relationships and appreciate the relationships, because I had a couple of men that I went to high school with die in that, and brothers, and it's just, they were volunteers. I mean, they were firemen. So one went in, he was working, one was just on his way home, so he turned around and went back, and they died. And then the one brother in my grade went, and he was a fireman as well, and he went looking for everybody and helping with the cleanup. And then their father was a fireman who had just passed away like several months before. And I just feel for the mom. They were a really great family, hardcore, great, solid family. And so it's the resilience of those people, like, that were the survivors of the families, and how random that was, and how, there was this saying, never forget. And I think a lot of people forget. And there's a saying about the Holocaust, never forget. And I once sat and wondered what that meant. And I talked to one of my mentors. I never forgot what he said about never forget, where it's never forget that humans can do this to each other.
Mhm.
And I was just like, that's really what the never forget is about with the Holocaust and things like this. It's never forget people can do this to each other and keep ourselves in check. And there's another mentor I listen to who says, it's so easy to think we would be the ones that would help during those kinds of situations. But would we, do we know for sure? Because statistically, actually, it says the opposite. Well, maybe, yeah, statistically, it says the opposite. And I think of that, I don't know whether he's a priest or a minister, but he knew he was going in and not coming back out, because he was going to go pray and be with the people that weren't going to make it. And it's just that kind of resilience. I question what, I only pray that I could be that, like, be ready to show up like that if the situation ever came about. I remember I was walking to, I go in Girl Scout mode when things like that happen. And I was like, oh, I got to get money out of the bank. And I went to the bank and the doors were all locked, and there was somebody else there with me. And I was like freaking out, like, oh my God, the banks aren't open. There's going to be like this World War III and I can't get money. And I was in Beverly Hills and I was in this alley walking home. I realized it was before the bank even opened. And I'm having my meltdown in the bank room. I'm alone in this alley walking, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was walking towards me. And I was like, this is so bizarre, because, like, in apocalypse movies. And he was going to meet his agent to cancel Collateral Damage, which was a movie that that was coming out just that weekend, and they decided that would not be appropriate. And back then, people also told me I looked like Marie Shriver, so that was quite interesting encounter. But yeah, a lot of just like time stops, and it also reminds that how precious there's no prediction of the next minute. Like, nobody knows if they're going to be here necessarily the next minute, let alone year or two. And the Stoics had that thing where it was like, be aware of death, but not in a morbid way, but in a way to seize the day. That, I think that was their phrase too. But so what brought me here too was the idea of, I've been on these before, and I did the little workshop, and just and every time I'm on here, there's some different people. I don't know if I've been on with the woman that was speaking when I got on, but the people are all love-minded people. That's what I call love-minded people. And then it's just a good energy. I've never had a negative moment when I come around, and it's those little pockets of people, places and groups where it's not a downer, a Debbie Downer is becoming priceless these days. And that other people actually want to live by values is also very refreshing. So yeah, it's good. I've been meaning to get more onto the Mighty Networks part of things. I'm not that good with email. I'm working on emails. And it's good to check in and see how everyone else is doing.
Mhm. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for listening.
Oh, thanks so much for sharing. Oh my God, you said so much. It's
Yeah.
really very, very powerful. I mean, just the losses that you endured during that time of people, and you talked about your faith and people and, and understanding what they will and won't do and can and can't do and what they might do in the future, never forgetting is like so powerful. And I don't think of it as, I don't experience what you're saying as being morbid at all or like anything that's down. It just seems so real to me to just understand that this is the nature of life itself, right? That these things happen and people do those things. But then it's like, I was thinking when you were talking, I don't remember who said that, but there's like two categories of people. If you see the world as a safe place or you see the world as a dangerous place, and it's like holding that space, like which way do you see it? And for me, with my values, it's always important to see the world as a safe place, despite what's happening, to understand that those things happen. But that doesn't change my view. That doesn't change how I enter the world. That doesn't change how I choose to interact with people. That doesn't change my lead with compassion. That doesn't change any of those things, because I recognize that for me, my worldview and how I've used my values to navigate and to go through life is so helpful and powerful and so grounding for me, that I hold those things so dear. And it's easy to get shaken from those things when bad things happen to good people, as it were, that kind of that whole thought process. But it's like, while you just said some really powerful things, it made me think about so many things about just how do you just in the midst of everything else find that place of still engaging with life and being good to yourself and to other people as well, and recognizing that there's a duality, right? I think that's the big thing, and the resilience part, absolutely. And I don't know whether I would run into a burning building. I've done some crazy things before, in the moment, because I tend to be the kind of person that runs toward things just because it's like, oh my God, this is happening. How can I help? But I don't know. You never know until you're in the experience whether you would hesitate or whether you would just move forward, knowing that this is going to forever change your life or maybe end your life. That's like that's a big thing. That's like, those are people that are so grounded in their values in the moment that there's very little hesitation. It's like, this is it. This is what I'm willing to live and die for. And that is like the most profound thing to me in terms of being able to live and embody your values. So are you willing to put your life on the line for them, and that's what those people did. And that's a big deal.
Absolutely. So much richness in this conversation. It truly is. Thank you, Constance, for sharing your experience of that time, the relationships, and just where you were and how important that all of this is to our own internal growth and how we relate to each other in such these profound ways. And those, resilience is such a part of it. And I think it is about that flow of unexpected life. We know that life is going to be changeable and changing, and we just don't know what that's going to look like and what are the tools we can use to live that.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about, I remember when like March 2020, and there was, so many first responders and people really showing up in ways. And I'm service oriented by nature. And so how can I be help? What's my role? And I think this gets back to the values too. Like, what's my call? What's my purpose in all of this? Where can I help? That's my first inclination. Where can I support and help? And what I came to through my own work and purpose and values too is that, like, I'm not necessarily the first wave of responders, but I go back to that bridge of once things have settled down from that initial crisis, then it's how do we integrate it? How do we then move through it? It's such an important part of the resilience, taking what we have experienced, learned, and grown from it and carrying that through. And that's that part of the flow of the resilience piece. And so the values, to me, when I was, Michelle and I were talking about today, what an important day to talk about values. for that reason. The values that we hold individually, values collectively, what does that look like, and just talk about it in a active way. So I'm grateful you both we're all here having that conversation, because to me, that's how we honor everything that happened that day. Each of the people who were in the building, who showed up, who ran into the building, ran after, all the and all the post effects too. There's so many people affected after that day, from whether it's the chemicals, all of the stuff from the destruction itself, as well as what we just saw in the world with Afghanistan and Iran, and I'm not, that's not to go political. It's much more just about we're all taking it all in some form or another, and how do we integrate that into our own filter in our own way, and go through the other side. So the values help me find my place in all of that, to be of service. So
I really liked what you said, Amy, about just finding your role and finding your place, and how everything has value. And I was just thinking, as you were saying, you may not be the first person to be there right in the moment of crises, but then there's so much more that happens beyond that, where people are needed. It's like everybody has a role. And it's we call the people that are the first responders the heroes, right? They're the persons who are most likely to risk their lives and their health and their well-being for the good of others and to help other people. And then there are the other heroes who show up to help put things back in order, or to provide meaning, or to help people who continue to struggle, beyond the initial crises, and how to go on living, and how to, just recover from those kinds of things, to deal with the trauma associated with that. And that's equally as important. I mean, it has tremendous value, and that just goes right back to, now I'm hearing in my head, don't forget, never forget, right? Because it's easy to I think I was reading something a little while ago where they talked about, I was reading a book about trauma, and it talks about how often, in the initial aftermath of something, everybody is like all hands on deck, right? Totally there. And you can think about it in terms of everything. It's like if somebody dies, the casseroles, all the other things, people are showing up, they're there, they want to participate and to help in that process. And then what happens is that 3 months, 6 months, everybody's moved on with their life, but then the other people are left with the aftermath, still trying to recover. And then it's easy to not remember, to have it in the front of your mind that, okay, this is still happening for people. People are still reeling from the trauma that they experienced a long time ago, but then they don't have the support. So it's like, gosh, it just made me think how powerful it is when people continue to remember and to think about and to work toward helping people in that process, because it's well beyond. I mean, that's like, if we were staggered out, it would be a lot more helpful for people, right? Okay, so let's think about, Mary a year from now, and how she's managing her loss, and how she's reintegrating into society or whatever else. But it's like, we're like long gone from that, and the other person's, left behind. So I love what you said about, showing up later, showing up at another point in time to help the process and to figure out, what can I contribute here? Because I think that, as more people think about that, I think that that's such a helpful way to, to frame your contribution and your connection to other people into life.
thank you, Sheila.
You're welcome.
Jen, do you have anything you want to chat about, or any questions or things you're thinking about?
Not really. I'm just kind of like
Taking it all in.
Yeah, I mean, it's a heavy day too. Like we all remember where we were. It brings back a lot of memories, and like we've all said, there have been so many changes in the world since then, and like life before 9/11, life after 9/11 are very different. So
Yeah.
Think about.
Yeah, and and living our lives is really the most important thing. So everything we were talking about before is also equally as important in a way, right? That the best way is to be active and live our lives. Or Constance, as you talk about, like living the front of your arrow, like really playing full out in our lives, and then finding the different tools to do that, because these things are going to happen in life. You know, they just do. And with the 24-hour, it's more than 24 hours, it feels like, the bombardment of the news cycle, even if you aren't seeking it out, it's all the more important to stay really clear about our internal compass, so that we don't get thrown off so much in that regard. What other tools do you guys all use for resilience, like to help you stay resilient in life? Are you using, is there things that you do that help you be more resilient?
Meditation and breath work and exercise and eating right and reaching out to friends. I think you said earlier, just asking for help when you need it. Like we're so like, no, I have to do this myself. I have to be independent. I can figure this out on my own. It's like, just ask for help. That's what I mean. That's for your friends. That's for your family. Like if you need help, ask for help. So
it's so true. Just that asking for help was one of the biggest changes in my life. I broke my collarbone when I had my daughter was 10 months old, and I like the biggest thing was, oh my God, I had to ask for help. And it was, again, driving, because I couldn't drive. I wasn't allowed to drive. So I had to ask for people to help bring my other daughter back and forth from preschool. So there's that driving theme again, but learning to ask for help is a powerful practice, because we do have that kind of rugged individualism here, but we really are interdependent and need each other and are connected to each other in these super profound ways. Yeah,
I would echo all the things that you said, Jen. Though the asking for help part is still a work in progress. That still remains a challenging one for me, but definitely the meditation, definitely movement and exercise, definitely, putting healthy, good, nutritious things in my body. I mean, so much. So, and then connecting with people, all of those things are just super important. And I just rely on those. And it's like, I can tell when things are, when there's a shift and something's not quite right, that I'm not doing one of those things, right? So I know that I have to come back. These are my ways of getting back to center. And it's like just in the midst of whatever's going on, still feeling that sense of calm and sense of peace and sense of optimism, right? And that awareness that life is good, like life is really good. I remember there was it just made me think about it a number of years ago. There's certain idioms and expressions that I get into, and one of them at that time was, it's all good, it's all good. And I would say that, and I had a sister who just absolutely hated it. She would say, it's not all good, let me tell you. But it's like, I mean, it really bothered her, right? Because this was my orientation. This is it. It's all good, And there's something, and it's like, you say things, and then at some point, it just becomes the truth of your experience, right? So it is. To me, it really is. I mean, even all of this stuff, even all of the things that I've been through, I can find the good. I can find how it has shaped me, and it really is all good, right? And that's where I live from, right? But it hasn't always been the case. So it's like you learn how to embrace these things, and they take on a life of their own, like they become, like this is a mantra, right? And all of those things that we talked about, I mean, these are the ways that I build a resilience, is just having a different mindset, right? It's super important. to just honor that, to really like look at how I think about things and look at my internal dialogue and catch myself sometimes. And I caught myself the other day, like just in the silence, there's like this little phrase that came out that was like, oh my God, where did that come from? Let me counter this. It's like, things, well, they bubble up. It's like, what? And I was really surprised by it. It was like so negative. And it's like, okay, that still resides in me. That's still something that I have to like consciously counter. And it's like, I'm just so grateful that I have the presence to be able to hear that little voice and to say, oh no, wherever that tape comes from, this got to go. We're erasing that tape. We're doing something else to counter that. And these are all the ways that I just try to continue to build resilience. And that resilience is really around just bouncing back and life is good and life is going to be good, even if everything is taken away. It's even been to that point, life is still good, and holding that as the way that I view the world and see life. Super powerful, in addition to the values. And it's all interwoven. It's like, how do you separate? It's like, okay, that's part of, finding and creating beauty is the value of mine. So it's like, okay, so even when things are crappy, I'm going to find and I'm going to create beauty. I'm bring forth beauty. I'm going to bring forth healing. I'm going to find that little gem, that little ray of hope, even under the worst circumstance. And that is just a powerful way of navigating through life. This journey of ours, just happy to still be on it. Happy to still be on it. Just very grateful for that. So that's what I do.
It's all good, right?
It's all good. It's all good. Yes.
Constance, did you want to share your tools?
Well, I think for me, remembering gratitude, I'll go for a walk of gratitude, and that helps right size me. And then I often think of Viktor Frankl, who wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And that phrase, you could get through any how, if you have a why or something. So knowing the why. And also I think of people that have gotten through like almost impossible situations, like Viktor Frankl or Solzhenitsyn, who lived in the Gulag, and Mandela, and just where you could be in situations where it would be completely rational to think, I'm never going to get out of this, or I'm going to die in this. And that, the human spirit is very resilient. And also something that for me that's like kryptonite is lack of sleep. Mm-hmm. And that to be like double down on, like I think her name's Jennifer was saying about self-care. Sleep is like the main, like I sometimes think of like soldiers in war, like they have to sleep. Like, how do you're in the middle of a war and they lay down and sleep? Like, wow, how do people do that? But I've learned all different techniques along the way. I've been sleeping better than ever. I'm actually safer and healthier and in a space that I love more than ever in my life. So that's appreciative. That's nice. My husband likes to hold my hand when we sleep. So it's nice.
That's
And he's definitely Eagle Scout, volunteer fireman. Like if anything happens, he's got it covered, which is nice. And so yeah. And then there's the story that I learned at some point with the man with the horse, and I think of that a lot too, where something's happened. Oh no, he wins a horse at the little town fair, and everyone's like, "Wow, that's so great! You want a horse?" He's like, and then, oh, sorry, I called just. Yeah. So and then he won the horse. It was like, "Wow, that's so great! You won." He's like, "Maybe, maybe not." Then his son rides it and falls off and breaks his leg, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, that's horrible." He's like, "Maybe, maybe not." And then a war comes and they take all the 18-year-olds, but his son doesn't go because he has a broken leg. So it's just maybe, maybe not. And I've had that really apply many times where it's like, I have no idea if this is for the best or worst. And sometimes our worst days are best and our best days are worst. And be mindful of unanswered, thank God for unanswered prayers sometimes. So, yeah.
That is so true. We used to read that story. I had that story in I think it was called like the Zen book for
Oh, really? I gotta find that.
the children.
Was that the motorcycle one? Oh,
the horse story? Is
yeah, but was it in the
Zen
book?
Shorts. It's called. The book is called Zen Shorts. It's a beautiful.
Ooh, I gotta go get that.
I kept it. I love so many of the children's
Oh,
from my
yeah.
little. Yeah, there was another one like a good day. Little bird lost her tail feather.
Oh,
And then it goes through all those things, and you find that you don't know what is a moment in time that is that can appear, that the feelings are real in that moment. There is a loss, and then there is also the rising, and then there is also the transformation, and the things like sleep and exercise and breathing and taking care of ourselves and meditation help us integrate the loss, that it's possible to transform. So the little bird lost its little yellow tail feather, and at the end of the book, a little girl finds it and puts it in her hair,
oh,
and it's sweet, and it's called A Good Day, right? Because we just don't know what's the good day and what's, so what's not a good day. So, and that's why for me, all those things, and then the values helping with that bridge part. Like, how do you then demonstrate it at work and demonstrate it out into each day and the interactions with the outside world through our communications and things like that. And we're doing another Discover Your Core Values workshop in November, which we're excited about. So we're going to be doing it a little bit differently, similar, but we changed a couple of the exercises a little bit. And then I also created with my daughter a program for young adults and teens. So we co-created that. So it's kind of interesting to be able to offer that approach for young people, especially as they're making decisions in their life, because the world is changing so much for all of us. But to be in high school and there's not a lot of time for self-reflection. So all of us love minders here, have taken the time to do that, show up for these things. And the kids probably see some of their parents doing that, but for them to be given the opportunity. So I'm excited about what that would look like out there in the world, and hopefully see that. So we're cool. And Jen, Constance mentioned the values connection. I don't think I had that when you took the workshop yet, but it's a place where we're all coming together, and I can send you an invitation if you're interested. And it's just a place for everyone who's kind of done the values work and can just share things. And we do like weekly check-ins and post things, and it's a little community. So it's like Facebook community, but not on Facebook.
Good, because I'm not on Facebook.
It's not on Facebook, yeah. So it's on Mighty Networks, which I really like, and it's just a great little place, and people can post questions and just show up as where we are. So I'll send you an invitation if you're interested.
Please, thank you.
Yeah, it's a sweet little place. So anyone else have a thought or want to share something or a question before I can't believe it's an hour already, but it's almost an hour. It goes quickly on this day. I was debating, and I don't know how all y'all feel. Well, Sheila and I were talking about this, taking just a moment of silence. So how does anyone feel about that? Does that feel authentic to, I think it does for our conversation, and just kind of settling in, and we have the time, and I'll set a little timer for 2 minutes, and we'll just kind of end in a meditation. I just got chills. So I feel it's the right thing to do. It's an integration process, and it's a an honoring too. So how does everyone feel about that? Yeah.
I'm in.
Okay, good. All right, I'm gonna get my timer here. My Insight Gong timer.
I love Insight Timer.
I have one of the very early ones. I mean, I got it pretty early, so it's funny. Okay. All right, here we go. It started.
That was lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. So glad you were here. It means a lot to be able to have this conversation.
Absolutely. Ditto.
Come-
That's all good.
Yeah, and we're here every 11th of the month at 11 a.m. PST.
Yes.
Pacific Coast. So she got on 11 a.m. East Coast time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.